the session. Thank you very much, and thank you for that kind introduction. It's a real pleasure to be here. I should also start by extending my colleague Amy's apologies. She was due to be the chair of the session today, but at the very last minute, she was actually called to an event at the White House, no less, to represent Canadian nuclear science and technology as it relates to fusion. And I wanted to mention that because I think it is just another data point among many which highlights the importance and the respect and the credibility that Canadian nuclear science and technology has with the international community. So she is currently on a plane, due to come back here, and will be here this afternoon, hopefully. So if you want to ask her about that event, please do so. Before I introduce my esteemed panelists, or chatters, I should say, I just wanted to reflect on a couple of the key themes that we heard from yesterday, because I think it will set a bit of context for the conversation that we're going to have. So this session is going to be all about exploring Canada's medical isotope future and gaining that government perspective. And yesterday, three of the things that we heard about, I mean, from multiple speakers and presenters, we heard about the importance of turning that development pathway into a development highway and the role of innovation in that. And that's not unique to Canadian nuclear sector. It's something that we all know is something in Canada that we need to tackle together. We also heard of the importance of sustainable funding to allow us to build teams and organisations that are successful. I think Mike, that was you from Lawson that recommended that. We also heard Travis from Kinetrix, who I think is chairing the student session. He was talking about a war on talent and the fact that we need to kind of up our game and increase the pipeline to make sure that we have the people that we need to achieve our ambitions. And we also heard from Catherine, who we also heard from again this morning, the importance of events such as this to break down silos and encourage collaboration. And I've come over recently from the UK, and I can say this is something that Canada does very, very well. Getting groups of industry, regulator, academia, all aspects of the value chain and the supply chain together to talk about shared objectives and how you can achieve them. That is something that is not seen the world over. So I just thought I'd share that perspective while I have some degree of independence. I've only been here 7 months. Okay, so innovation, funding, talent, collaboration are all key components of a successful future ecosystem. So to explore this ecosystem, it's my great pleasure to welcome MP Pam Damoff, who was first elected as the Member of Parliament for Oakville North Burlington in 2015. We met Pam on the session yesterday. A community activist and business professional with over 25 years of corporate experience. Pam served as an Oakville Town Councillor from 2010 to 2015. Prior to becoming an MP, Pam currently serves as the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs and is a member of the Standing Committee on Access to Innovation, Privacy and Ethics and the Subcommittee on International Human Rights. So welcome, Pam. And as Andrew said, with a role title change in the last 24 hours, I'd like to welcome the Honourable Natalia Kusendova-Bashta, who was appointed the Minister of Long-Term Care yesterday. She's a Canadian politician, quite obviously, who was elected to the Legislative Assembly of Ontario in the 2018 provincial election to represent the riding of Mississauga Centre. She holds a Bachelor of Science degrees in Human and Molecular Biology from the University of Toronto and in nursing from Nipissing University before being elected. Before being elected, she worked as a nurse, and I think you were actively involved during the COVID pandemic as well, so thank you very much for that. Okay, I'm going to come join you down there. It's meant to be a chat, isn't it? So let me come down there. Just making sure I have all my notes.
I'll come right next to you.
Is this on? Excellent. Okay, so to kick us off then, my first question, and Pam, we'll turn to you first, if that's okay. Sure. Could you explain why this topic in industry is so important to you, and why is this so important to Canadians?
Well, as Andrew said, I don't know where Andrew's gone, but thanks to Andrew and Pat for coming out from Bruce Power, coming out to my office, and talking to me about nuclear in general and how important it is. And my son informed me about the role that nuclear has played in getting Ontario off of coal. And then that sort of moved into the isotope sphere and working to get funding for the Canadian medical isotope ecosystem. And it was something that I was really proud to champion in the federal government, to get $35 million to get that started. But look, I'm like everybody else in this room who's been touched by cancer. And I've always been a bit of a science geek as well. And just seeing the incredible work being done here in Canada to save lives. And I know isotopes do more than just cancer, but it really was something that touched my heart, and I wanted to put us at the forefront in the world, quite frankly.
Absolutely, fantastic. And it's certainly something I've noticed here, and from the conversations we had yesterday with some young researchers, that there is a very compelling and positive story to tell, and it's based on a very extensive history. I think Canada was the first nation to produce cobalt-60 for medical applications.
And the first time it was used was in London, Ontario, in my hometown. Oh, I heard somebody from London. There we go. But I can't remember what year that was. It was 1950-something, was it not? 1951. There we go. So
fantastic. And it was produced at AUCL sites up at Chalk
there we
River.
go.
So, excellent. We tie it all together. Lovely. Excellent. Thank you very much. So, Natalia, if you don't mind, same question to you. Why is it so important to you, this topic?
Thank you so much for that question, and thank you for inviting me this morning. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here today as my very first engagement as Ontario's new Minister of Long-Term Care. Thank you. So as a nurse, of course, and I still work on casual basis at the Etobicoke General Hospital in the emergency room to maintain my nursing license, I often take care of patients who have the diagnosis of cancer. And what I have learned over the years is that medical isotopes and theranostics, this is the future of oncology. And we are just a few steps away from Princess Margaret Hospital. And the applications of medical isotopes are vast. And when we look at the current gold standard therapies in oncology, whether it's radiation therapy or chemotherapy, we know that those have vast side effects, quite devastating, loss of hair, nausea, vomiting, many other side effects. And we know that the radiotheranostics medical isotopes, they have much less side effects for our patients. And before I became an MPP, and I've been an MPP for 6 years, but I've only really learned about medical isotopes in the last 2 years, as Ontario, is really a leader in nuclear energy. And so I've learned about this incredible byproduct that medical isotopes are. And I think, it's Canada's best kept secret. Not many people actually know about this incredible success story that is the Canadian story of medical isotopes. We produce 50% of the global supply of medical isotopes. But outside of this room, I'm just not sure how many people actually know about that, whether it's our patients that are receiving these frontline therapies or just the public at large. So what I want to do is really share this incredible Ontario, Canada story of success, because our isotopes are exported into 30 countries and are treating cancers around the world. And we need to share that story of success, and we need to work together across levels of government to ensure that these life-saving, life-changing therapies can reach as many patients as possible globally.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And best kept secret was something that was in the back of my mind as well. I've always found it quite fascinating since entering the nuclear industry more generally, how few people know about it. And if we're serious about tackling this war on talent, we have the most compelling story you could imagine right in front of us. We just need to get better at communicating it, getting it out there, engaging with more people about it. But yeah, absolutely, fantastic. So just moving on to my next question then. And Pam, again, I'll start with you on this because I think it picks up one of the comments that you made yesterday on your fireside chat then. What are the opportunities for industry and government to increase cross-communication and work together to provide better access to radiopharmaceuticals and cancer patients in Canada? And I know one of the comments you made yesterday was about the province and the federal government potentially working more closely together. I wondered if you could expand on that.
Well, I think this is one area where there's absolute agreement between the province and the federal government and industry and academia. I mean, I have to say a conference like this is a good start in doing that and bringing all the brightest and smartest and most capable people into one room to connect with each other. But as I was saying yesterday, you know, the province delivers health care. We provide funding for it. But having that collaboration to make sure that access is available all across the country. And I think it's possible to do that. You know, you and I were talking last night about collaboration between the federal and provincial government, and there's lots of examples of that. If we look at electric vehicles, Ford of Canada's head office is in Oakville, and both the province and the federal government have decided that that's a priority and are investing money into it. And the nice thing about medical isotopes is actually we already have the infrastructure. The industry is not looking for money per se. We don't need to invest billions in nuclear power plants or reactors or cyclotrons. We've already got that in Canada. What we need is coordination, and I think there's a willingness to do that and work together to see that come to the forefront.
Yeah, and I guess plenty of opportunities for lessons learned as well between how different provinces tackle this and opportunity for greater efficiencies.
Ontario's at like heads and tails above everybody else. Sorry to the BC folks here. You'd be a close second, I would say. But I mean, really, it's Quebec, Ontario, and British Columbia. And if I could give an example of something I learned a few weeks ago, I was involved in getting funding for the Marathon of Hope Cancer Centers. And what that was an idea of the Terry Fox Research Institute to connect centers across the country. And I was speaking to the co-lead in Atlantic Canada, a wonderful woman from Newfoundland. And she said as a result of being part of the Marathon of Hope Cancer Centers, the level of they're doing genomic sequencing, the level of services provided to the people in Atlantic Canada has now been increased to the level of Ontario, Quebec, and BC. And that's the same for Manitoba, Alberta, Saskatchewan. So as a result of that collaboration, patients in Newfoundland and PEI, they're actually getting the same kind of sequencing that is available to us here in Ontario. So I think it just shows you what we can do when we all do work together.
Absolutely. And Natalia, as somebody who has boots on the ground, so to speak, on this, wondered on your perspective, both from now your position as minister, but also as one of the frontline workers.
Yes, thank you. So I think what I've learned is that there are interprovincial barriers that exist on the regulatory front, especially when it comes to transporting medical isotopes. And I think it's really incumbent on us as legislators to come together and ensure that we have a national strategy. I think that's very important that all provinces work together with the federal government to come up with a national strategy, but also remove some of those interprovincial barriers. And it's interesting, but when it comes to interprovincial trade, sometimes it's actually more difficult to get some things done between provinces than between other jurisdictions and other countries. So I think we as provinces have some work to do together in terms of ensuring that we remove the red tape and the regulations that are not advantageous to especially to the transport, because these medical isotopes have short half-lives and they need to reach patients as soon as possible. And so from what I understand, there are different rules for different provinces, and so I think that is one concrete example of where we really need to come together as provinces, together with our federal partners, and remove all of these unnecessary barriers.
Absolutely, thanks very much. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because ultimately you all share the same common purpose. So you all have a guiding principle that you can align to. You want to improve health. You want to better tackle cancer. It's just coming together collaboratively like we are in this room and saying, okay, well, what is the role of the individual parts of that system to achieve it? So I think, again, you've got every opportunity to be successful in that regard, given the strong heritage that you're building from here in Canada. Natalia, you mentioned about the importance of strategy, and at the provincial level, the addition of isotopes to the province's life sciences and commercial strategy marks a milestone in accelerating commercialization, addressing sector challenges, and encouraging the adoption of Ontario-made innovation in healthcare. Would you mind talking about why this is an ongoing priority for your government and how you're likely to put this strategy into place?
Well, absolutely. I think it was critical that we include medical isotopes in our life science strategy. The life science strategy was launched during the first mandate of our government, and we are continuously working with industry partners to ensure that, you know, it's a robust strategy. We have a lot of investments from different countries, from biopharmaceuticals and many others, but certainly putting medical isotopes at the forefront of the strategy is key to the success of it. We do have a new Minister of Energy, Honorable Stephen Lecce, as of last night, so I'm sure he's getting briefed up, and I am very, very excited to work with him on this strategy in particular, and of course with Minister Sylvia Jones as well, and our Life Sciences Council to ensure that, you know, as a government, we make the right investments, because Ontario has the brightest, smartest, most intelligent young people. We have a lot of graduates coming from the STEM sector. We have actually at McMaster University, as you may know, we have an academic nuclear reactor where our engineering students are learning. And so the government also invested $6.8 million at McMaster University for that specific project. So we have a lot of work to do, and you know, we can't work in silos as separate ministries. This is truly an interministerial collaboration, including our Minister of Colleges and Universities. So we have the best, smartest young people here in Ontario. We have industry leaders, we have investment, we have the nuclear reactors, the CANDU reactors, which we are of course refurbishing as well. And so we have all the ingredients that we need to make this, you know, to make Ontario and Canada a global leader. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Absolutely fantastic.
Could I give a shout out to Todd Smith, your former Minister of
Absolutely.
Energy? You know, I think he was in the role for 3 years, but you know, I've met him a few times. We did a joint announcement in Ottawa not too long ago to support Bruce Power, federal, provincial funds going in. But, you know, he's moved on. He'll do a great job in education, but I think all of us in the room owe him a debt of gratitude for what he's done for Ontario when it comes to nuclear.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for that. And if I can share a kind of personal perspective, I mean, I came over from the UK 8 months ago now, and I've been working nuclear technology
To Chalk River.
To Chalk River.
Manchester to Chalk,
yeah.
or Deep River, sorry.
Deep
River.
Sort of town of 4,500 people from the plethora of independent bars and restaurants and things. So it's been an interesting challenge for me and my young family, but it's been absolutely the right move, because I was looking at Canada, and I was fortunate because I was working in the sector already. I could see everything you were doing and just thought that is the place you want to go if you want to work in nuclear. But I was privileged in the sense that I could see that. And I think that there's a lot that we can do internationally to kind of expand our kind of the visibility of the importance of the sector in Canada and the opportunity. And you mentioned McMaster. That was the first visit that I went on when I was over here, and looking at a reactor, talking to all the fantastic students. It's right there. You can really get your hands on it. It's absolutely amazing. This question wasn't on our original brief, but I did want to ask it, and it's a good jumping off point. I mean, what do you think the role in provincial and federal governments are in attracting talent from overseas, and is there anything more that we could do there? Who wants to tackle?
We actually were talking about that yesterday, because we kept hearing the need for talent, and I think we need to do a better job of highlighting what we're doing here in Canada. I think I might have mentioned yesterday, I certainly did when I was talking to some folks about how humble Canadians are, and I think we need to shout from the rooftops what is happening here in Canada and not be shy. We're not a boastful people as a rule of thumb, and I think we should be when it comes to this. We can be proud, and we can get rid of a little bit of that humility to say this is the place that you want to be. Met a wonderful young man yesterday who came here from Nigeria, and like you, was exploring where he wanted to go, wrote to a professor at the University of Saskatchewan, and went from Nigeria to Saskatoon. So there is an opportunity to attract people. I also think, though, we need to start in elementary schools, and perhaps your new Minister of Education could get on this, to educate kids at a really young age in high school about the opportunities that they have here, and to pursue careers that will lead to incredible jobs, because we're just at the start of this. You know, we have opportunities, but we need to get young people excited and know that they can do this in Canada. I'm sure that they don't when they're in high school. So I think we've got a job ahead of us to really shout from the rooftops what's happening here.
Absolutely. Anything to add?
Absolutely. So when it comes to education, both at the primary and secondary level, our government is firmly, supporting STEM education, including, going back to basics in terms of mathematics to ensure that our students and our teachers, have the skills that they need in this fundamental, I think, skill as they move forward. And with the former Minister of Education, Stephen Lecce, we've actually worked on some initiatives to ensure that nuclear careers in the nuclear field are actually promoted within the careers, because not many young people know that they can have well-paying jobs working at Ontario Power Generation. I went to tour with my colleague PA Jess Dixon, who was the PA to Energy. And, we were so in shock. What an amazing institution that is. And everyone going in was so proud to be working at Ontario Power Generation. And I'm not sure if you've ever been, but the command station, it looks like something of outside of a sci-fi movie. So it's so cool. And these are high-paying jobs, highly skilled jobs. But I'm just not sure if our young people know that these jobs are available to them. So we as a government, we have to do a better job in promoting these opportunities for our young people. When it comes to international talent, attracting more international talent, I'm a firm believer in academia and academic exchanges, so having good partnerships with institutions, universities from around the world to allow for exchange of researchers, exchange of graduate students. I'm currently completing my master's at Toronto Metropolitan University in nursing research, and there are so many opportunities for world collaboration. And so I think we're working with our Minister of Colleges and Universities, supporting academic research, again, to position Canada and Ontario as a global leader and to attract that talent. That's very important for us.
Also the skilled trades. And that was mentioned yesterday as well. When I toured Darlington, the millwrights have got an amazing program to get women into skilled trades. And we met with 4 of these young women who were doing the program. And, these are good paying jobs. And we need people in skilled trades to work in nuclear as well. I mean, you look at what's happening at Darlington right now, and attracting young people and people that maybe haven't thought of skilled trades in the past. The nice thing about this program the millwrights were doing was they had 10 women in the program, 8 of them were working at Darlington, so there was a nucleus of women, so the retention of those women in skilled trades is probably higher than if they were an individual and they were one woman amongst all men. That's largely why women leave the skilled trades. So there is some good work being done out there, and I will give a shout out to your government in promoting skilled trades. Monty McNaughton, who was your former Minister of Labour, did some really incredible work on that.
Fantastic. It's interesting, isn't it? It's the nuclear skills and skills for nuclear. They're quite different, but equally important. And just to kind of build on some experience that we had in the UK, same problem, too below the radar. There's this concept that we need to get to a proud nuclear nation, which has some kind of nice ring to it. And they eventually launched a kind of pan-sector campaign a few months ago called Rediscover Nuclear. And it was kind of the seniors from all different organizations recognize they are competing against one another in an extent in this kind of war on talent, but it's in all their interests to get their message out. So it's a huge social media campaign, very out there, very different for nuclear and how it has been historically, and it's paying dividends. So I'd recommend people have a look at that just as an idea of perhaps we could do something similar here and all come together on the back of the ecosystem that's been developed. So just turning to, I've got 5 minutes left. I'll move on to my kind of second to last question here. Canada has been a leader in medical isotope production, research and use for over 70 years. Pam, first, from your perspective, how can Canada sustain its excellence in the field and maintain global relevance?
Wow. Well, I think, one of the things that we've done is investing in the Canadian medical isotope ecosystem. And I think that was the first time that all these different groups actually came together. And that collaboration has really led to some incredible partnerships and leadership from all the organizations. I see Catherine from Triumph and Owen, we're our co-hosts up here, of course. And then the work that the Canadian Nuclear Isotope Council is doing, and a real big shout out to Melody and Andrew for putting this on. Honestly, like, they're just powerhouse, and bringing all of the people here together. So I think forums like this are a great way of raising the profile of isotopes and radiotheranostics, not only here in Canada. I have a friend here from Japan who's observing everything that's going on here for the next 2 days. We need to keep doing outreach, but I think the more we can work together, the more that we will continue to be a leader in this field.
Fantastic. And Natalia, some thoughts from you?
So I think we need to continue telling our story and sharing our story of success with partners across the world. I'm very proud of my background. I'm Polish-Canadian, and you may know we've had a visit from the Prime Minister Morawiecki last year, and we actually signed an agreement, a memorandum of understanding between Ontario and Poland on SMRs, small modular reactors. So those, of course, don't produce medical isotopes, but this is an example where Ontario is a leader in actually exporting some technologies which are very important here, but also on the global stage. So if we could sign more memorandums of understanding across the globe and really export the knowledge and the know-how and the skills that we have here in Ontario and Canada globally, I think, again, that will position us as leaders, and we are leaders in this field, producing 50% of the global supply. But I also think it's very important that we continue searching for new medical isotopes to cure more cancers. I know medical isotopes are also important in Alzheimer's disease, in the PET scanning. I'm a huge advocate for improving access to dementia care in Ontario. We have a population which is aging, and I think this is exactly what we need. We need innovation to help our aging population in terms of diagnosing Alzheimer's early, and we have some very exciting therapies coming as well onto the market, but we have to catch that Alzheimer's early on. And so I think there's a huge opportunity for us to really put medical isotopes in the forefront of various therapies, not just cancer, but also diseases like Alzheimer's, cardiovascular, and many others.
I'm just going to jump in. I know we only have a couple minutes left, but on that, we just, as many of you know, signed an agreement with Romania to provide new CANDU reactors to them as they refurbish their nuclear reactors. And then part of that, and I know Laurentis is working with them on helping them to produce isotopes in their nuclear reactors, in their CANDU reactors. So there is an opportunity globally.
Yeah, absolutely. We heard from Bruce Power yesterday, didn't we, on the fact that they are going to double their isotope generation capacity by October, I think, this year. So, some fantastic opportunities. And I do think that if you look at the different nations that are out there at the moment that are all trying to kind of export their nuclear technology, Canada has a real advantage because not just because of the technology you've got, but the way that we can go about things. We can help other nations consider what is the regulatory environment they need, how are they going to manage the export licensing, how are they going to handle the safeguard arrangements around any of this material, and everything that goes with it. So fantastic. So we've only got a minute left. I haven't got another question that I think really fits in this session. But is there anything else you would like to add, or any other points you wanted to make by way of closing?
So I'm just very proud to be Canadian. I'm so proud to be sharing this story of medical isotopes, and I'm committed to being an advocate for this field and to breaking those interprovincial barriers and to ensuring that Canada remains the world leader, and also to ensuring that our patients have access to this life-changing and life-saving therapies.
And I'd just like to say thank you to all of you in the room. It's humbling to be amongst so many incredible, incredible people, and thank you for all the work that you're doing on behalf of Canadians. It really does make me as well proud to be Canadian, but a sincere gratitude for everything that you're doing.
Fantastic. So I think with that, I think all of us in the room can also thank you both for joining us today.